Hi guys, welcome to today's show, Interactive Solutions. We are here once again, like we come your way every Sunday. And today, we over the past few weeks, we've been talking about morality, values in the society, corruption, and bad behavior, and all sorts of things that have already gone wrong in the society. Today, we want to look at possible solutions, how we can walk back these years of rot, bad behavior, and corrupt practices, not just at the individual level, but even at the corporate level. So, today we are looking at moral capital and institutional integrity. Which one matters more than the other in forming anti corruption agencies and anti corruption reforms? So, that is where we are today. Having talked so much about anti-corruption and all those, we want to dwell on finding likely solutions to some of these things. So here we are today, and we wish to introduce, as always, the guys who try to walk us through this minefield, the guys who try to bring light where there is darkness, try to remove the cobweb of confusion where there are confusion. So today, we invite you to be part of this journey because it's not just about talking about issues, about problems and all those. Today, we want to see how we can adduce possible solutions to the hydra-headed monster that have been wrecking society and family at large. And with me, as always, are the eggheads. I call them the eggheads because once I call them, they are always ready to do well. So they are already knocking on the door, and we want to be as quick as possible and try to deliver as much as we can within the short time we are going to be on this show. So, Onyemari is knocking on the door at the moment, and let's try to bring him in. Nadi to show his face. So, like we said, Onyemari, you're welcome. It's good to have you on today.
Yeah, hello, brother. Good evening.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Nice to see you today.
Yeah, it's good always seeing you all these Sundays. We always come here to try to, walk across a very, very large field laid with mines,
Yeah,
with bad behavior, corruption, immorality, and all those that dot the society. So today, like I was telling our audience, we want to see how we can adduce possible solutions to some of the things that continue to plague us in our society. And that is why we are talking about moral capital, institutional integrity, and likely anti-corruption reforms, if they
yeah.
are going to be possible in trying to, help us to walk across the minefield. So, quickly, without wasting much of our time and, diving straight into the heart of the matter, when we are talking about institutional integrity, what is it all about exactly?
Well, anyway, institutional integrity, it just a normal thing that anybody can understand, and we can understand it in a clear terms. It's not difficult. I think it is the ability for our society, for the government, and for our system to operate ethically, transparently, accountably, to ensure that it upholds its principles,
Yeah.
enforces its laws fairly, and then resist corruption. That is institutional integrity. It's not just about looking at it from the high level. We also have to look at it from the lowest level to the highest level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onyemere. Just as a follow-up to that, when you're talking about institutions, could you just give us an idea of these institutions we are talking about? Because when we talk about institutions, and somebody could be thinking about maybe the university, and somebody could be thinking about possibly, schools, primary school, family,
Yeah.
and all those. Could you just, in a very, very few words, give us an indication of what these institutions look like?
Well, anyway, institution look like what we all know, and what we all know, because I am just going to touch on it a bit because institution is all over the places. Let me start from the lowest level, or what I call the microcosm of the society. That is the the I call it village or town, wherever you may talk about it. But then we look at these institutions as we have built a leadership structure, because we're looking at the structure and we're looking at the system. How is the system and structure trustworthy? How is the system and structure effective? It's not just about calling university. You have a university institution, for example, and then how are they abiding by the rules that they have made? How are they respecting those rules? How are they enforcing those rules? How are they resisting corruption? When they get allocations from the government, do they use it for what it is supposed to be, or do they use it for something else? Because this corruption permeates all level of governance, from the local to the highest level. Like I said, I'm not going to touch on the highest level because the highest level is a result of what we have from the lowest level. So you can have something better at the highest level, but actually don't have something good at the lowest level. So I have this leadership structure within me, and I am operating within this leadership structure. And then the enforcement mechanism, how is it appealing to me that is leading this structure? If somebody asks me a question about what I am leading, am I available to answer them transparently? Because it is the ability of this institution to function transparently, ethically, and then accountably. If I have a particular fund within my reach, am I willing to make it transparent how I spend this fund by providing receipts and backup evidence to show how these funds were used or were spent? So all of those things are what we are asking. Institution is not just to say we have hospitals. Yeah, these are institutions, but we also have the family institution. The family as a credible institution. So what kind of life, what kind of words are we using in our families to reinforce that we have this ethical reputation, which talks to the moral capital? And then how do we see what our parents, what our background is telling us about how to do good, how to say the truth? Do we still continue saying this truth, or speaking this truth, or saying these things, or doing this good when we exceed our exploits from the family or from the background we come from? Can we now implement those moral capitals and then this reputation and institution where we are? So that is the result they are looking at. If we have this moral capital from the lowest, we can build a better institution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once more, when you're talking of institutions, are the laws of the land part of these institutions we're talking about?
Yeah. Laws are laws all over the places. If the law says don't do this, that's the law. And if you do it, you're not respecting the institution. The laws of the land, we're not talking, because laws are open to amendment. Laws are not static. They are flexible like culture. You're not going to say that one law is just going to be there forever. No. If the law doesn't suit the particular momentum of the context or of the situation where we are, the law has to change and the law has to fall for the people at that particular time. The law is not going to say because the law is this. But if it still fits in, the law is still going to be there. So that's how the law works. Law guides everything we do from the lowest level of the society to the highest level. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just trying to bring in Mr. Nnadi. So at the moment, for the benefit of our viewers, when we are talking about institutions, we are talking about yeah. Mr. Nnadi, you're welcome. When we are talking about institutions, yeah.
Good evening, brother.
We are talking about we are talking about the court system. We are talking about government and all those. Those are the. But like he said, when you are talking about institutions, you start from the lowest, going on. And the family system is part of it. Now, Mr. Nnadi, you just came in at the nick of time, and I'm going to ask you this question. And we are going to stay right on time because we just have less than 1 hour to do this show. I asked Onyemere about what the institutional integrity we are talking about here is all about, and he just finished, given his take on it before you came in. So I want to ask you what the moral capital what moral capital we are talking about. What is it all about? Can you explain to our audience and in a very, very simple language what the moral capital we are talking about is or are?
Well, thank you. Thank you, the T. Thank you for the question. I think that's the basics of this conversation today. I mean, what's that moral, what the capital, what it actually means. I will explain it in the most simplest way for anybody to understand. Moral capital is even is self-explanatory as well. When the word capital is added to that the equation, you always make references to what you have in stock, what you have as a capital. Like you're a businessman, they will ask you, how much is your capital? The moral capital is the accumulations of this moral status or structures of whether it's an individual, whether it's a society, whether it's a family, whether it's even a country as in general. That is the bank where all these values that we've been talking about over the course of this our podcast, where it's all stored. It becomes a check that you have wherever you're going. People will make references to you and say, "Oh, remember that man? You remember P2B? You remember what do you call him, Atiku?" And sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that the moral capital has to be the right morals. It can be the wrong morals as well. It can have a very, diverse kind of moral capital as well. So, moral capital in its simplest way is your morals in the bank. What moral do you have in stock? That is what moral capital is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Today, you guys, we've stayed on the mark for such in the last 2 or 3 podcasts on the issue of morals, corruption, bad behavior, and all those. And we are trying to work in what I understand today's topic to mean is that we are trying to work a pathway to rescuing society from the stranglehold of corruption and all those. That is why we are bringing in the anti-corruption aspect of it. Now we have looked at moral capital and then the institutional integrity that we need to really fight corruption. If that is what I understand this topic to mean. So I want to ask you, Onyemere, is institutional integrity sustainable in a society with weak moral capital?
Well, anyway, that's still what I said about moral capital when I was making my point, and also I can also draw on what our brother said. So in that moral capital, you normally refer to the individual and refer to organizations, you refer to society, but you cannot refer to institution, you cannot refer to the system, because the system is the larger one, but these are also systems in their own right, the organization societies, which are also built around having this moral ethical reputation. So if you don't have something on that lowest level, you cannot give it at the highest level. So institution, even though that institutions moral capital could be weak, institutions also can be built. It might not sustain, because we need that moral capital to build those institutions. But the sustainability it could depend on what is built. Because if you have a weak moral capital, how can you build a strong institutional integrity? But then we can flip it the other way around. Sometimes most of these people with weak moral capital at the highest level are still people that might have strong moral capital that we normally refer to, and because we refer to them in the lowest level as people who can say the truth, but when they get up larger aspect of the society where the institutional integrity is tested, because the institutional integrity is already weak, then the question is, if you can't beat them, you have to join them. It doesn't mean that the person doesn't have moral capital he or she might have, but it's just about the adaptation and then the adjustment of that moral capital to fit into that. If you can't beat them, you join them. But at the same time, these individuals, if they challenge themselves, they can also build something of a strong institutional integrity that can challenge those moral capital, those low moral capital they have, in a way that the society or the system or the structure becomes transparent and becomes accountable. Because there's always a bit of transparency and accountability in whatever we do in life, whether at work, whether at the family level, whether at the society level. There's always a bit of that coming. I see this money or on the ground. It's not my money. Do I put it in a place where somebody can see it, or do I just take it? So those questions are some of the things we can ask ourselves. Moral path is needed. Morality is needed. Ethical reputation is needed. And this moral capital is highly needed to build a strong institutional integrity. But on some occasions, moral path can be weak, not because the individuals are weak in moral capital, but because the institution has provided the environment for their moral capital to be weak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Nadi, what is the difference between moral capital and institutional integrity?
Thank you, DT. I think that's one of the key questions in this podcast, I would say, because that's where it gets tangled, where people get confused. Because when people make references and confuse what a society needs, is within the course of my conversations with it, over our episode, I've always made references to people's what you're doing internally, how that reflects to the externally. But this is the alternative of that. This is the other side of it, because you have to flip the coin by the head to get this one properly. Because the institution and the moral standard, how they both integrate, is the side that makes it even a bit tricky. The society itself, the institution, doesn't need moral standard to stand, but it needs moral. It is created by that moral standard. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
I look at it from this angle. You don't need a morally standard person to rule or to govern. What you need is a person that follows ethical values, because with moral standard, you have some kind of empathy or sympathy and all of that. That is not required in institutional building. I did a bit on institutional theory, where you understand how an institution is built. An institution is built based on ethics. There are rules that needs to be followed, regardless. You don't have to add your emotions to it. That is the difference between these two things. Your moral standard is what you can do discretionally, like. You do this based on your personal judgment, how you judge things, how you see things. Like, what's the right word? I don't know how to explain it. But in the other side of the institution, an institution is after we have congregated all these our moral standard or moral capitals, your moral capital, my moral capital, we can all build them all together to make a rule. Within the concept of that rule is where that institution kicks in. That rule becomes a rule. From the time that rules becomes a rule, your moral standard becomes deficient. I don't know if you're getting my point. Your discretions is no longer relevant. What you think is wrong and what you think is right is no longer relevant. What is relevant moving forward becomes that rule, that is that institution. So, moral in the moral aspect of it, let me give you a better instance. I was talking to a friend of mine who is an in-depth supporter of Tinubu. He loves Tinubu so much, and then I was asking him about things related to that. He was telling me that Tinubu builds people. That is why he's quite involved with his campaign and his support and all of that. But I said to him, that is not what we need. We don't need a leader that builds people. No. We don't need leaders that build people. You don't build people as a leader. You build institution. You build rules. Because the people you are building may be your friends, your family, your brothers, your sisters. But that is not what we need. We need a man that will come in and follow the rules of law. That this is the rule, regardless of if it affects me, and you have to look at the things from equal and fair share. You don't extract your friends or your family to help them and make them a bit, and then somebody that supports you assume that that is the attribute of being a leader. No, a leader is not that. That is not a way to be a leader. A leader is a person that built a standard, an environment, an ecosystem where everybody that is within the cycle of that leadership will survive, not just a selected few. And that is the reason why you see, even with the concept, it was in the recent report the other day. I think what's that reported Tinubu as one of the 5 most corrupt human beings in the world. And even with that record, people are still shouting on his mandate, we should stand, because these are insulated people who are benefiting from this system. So
thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I add something? Can I add something just a little bit?
Okay.
Okay. Like I said before, this institutional integrity is the ability for our system, our government, and all our organized society to function ethically, transparently, and accountably. So if they are operating ethically, transparently, and accountably, it means that they can uphold the principles they enact for themselves. It means that they can enforce laws fairly, and it means that they can resist corruption. So if these things are functioning properly, then the information is out there. Just like you can get any information in the UK, we still acknowledge some classified document, but most of the information are there for everybody to access. So, but when you talk about those moral debt, those moral capital, those moral, I can also call it moral integrity anyway, because moral is also related to, you cannot draw on ethic without falling back to morals, because these are just some of those goodwills and some of those ethical reputation that somebody, society, an individual, and then an organization has built over time. And because you have built it over time, you have consistently applied this ethical reputation into what you're doing over time. That makes it possible for people to draw on those things, for people to call on those things. So when there's going to be a problem in the lowest microcosm of the society, somebody can say, has this person spoken? If this person has not spoken, then it means that this decision cannot be made because we haven't been able to extract the truth. So everybody has spoken. But if that 1 or 2, 3 persons come in to speak, you will see that moral depth in them. That is why it is essentially important for these 2 things to collaborate in tandem to build to work against corruption. Because corruption is not just something we are seeing. As I mentioned earlier, we have different levels of corruption. So we need to understand this thing and how we can collaborate with them and work together to be able to get the required corruption reforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onyemere, and I'm coming to you on the basis of it's just from what you just answered now.
Yeah.
Do you think that corruption has a large place in the ecosystem of a country like Nigeria, for example?
Yeah. So somebody's making noise, and I didn't hear the last line.
I'm asking
Nigeria.
I'm asking. I'm using Nigeria as an example now.
Okay.
Do you think that corruption has a large? It has a large place. It's occupying a large place in the ecosystem of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay, and I want to presume that the moral capital and the institutional integrity is not as strong as it should be in Nigeria.
Well, anyway, it is not as strong as it be for the institution, not for the individuals. Yeah.
Okay, so for us now, the obvious way of trying to tame corruption or bring it into a kind of, or probably shrink the space where it operates, is for these two to agree to work together. The moral capital and the institutional integrity.
Definitely.
And that is what we need at the moment to, you know, as we talk now, there seems not to be a kind of anti-corruption reform going on in Nigeria. We have so many institutions, we have so many law enforcement agencies, EFCC, ICPC, and all those and all that. But yet, you know, the thing seems to be, you know, pushing back seriously on the activities of these institutions. So, which other anti-corruption reforms do you think we should put in place to be able to, take our space back?
Well, anyway, thank you so much, brother, for the question. Well, anyway, for me, one of the greatest anti-corruption laws we can put in is just to have greater loyalty for our country, and then to have greater loyalty for our society than the people leading us. Because what is actually one of the major problems in Nigeria is the ability or the capacity for the electorate to be loyal to the leader rather than the society that they should be promoting. Because the leadership, the seat of every political leader is just like a baba's chair. You come in, you go out. Nobody stays there forever. But you find out that every individual that comes into this seat carries a lot of baggages of electorates to go out. And those electorates always go with a level of loyalty. So if you are loyal to your state, that is when these laws you're talking about will be able to be enforced, because the institutional integrity is the ability for these laws to be enforced, for the accountability mechanisms to function. When you talk about accountability mechanism, the lawmakers are elected to make laws, and then to hold the executives accountable. We can see what is actually playing out in the UK between the Conservative Badenoch and then the Keir Starmer of a PM. So because of that mistake he made about Madelson, it's still playing out till today, and it's still going to affect the May election, just because they are exercising those rights to hold them responsible. So when the institutional integrity is weak, you do not blame everybody, because that loyalty, whatever reforms you put out there, brother, there are more laws in Nigeria than most of the countries in the world. So creating laws is not the problem, but enforcing those laws fairly and equitably and without selective bias is the problem. So we need to increase our loyalty to our country, and then to our loyalty to the institution, not our loyalty to the people leading us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nnadi, you made mention of the conversation you had with a friend about the present president of Nigeria, who is reputed to have made people and all those. And obviously, I think that tangent, that trajectory has contributed to the increasing space that corruption seems to be having in our nation. So do you think that anti-corruption agencies can function effectively, in a situation where there seems to be lack of political will? Because as it is now, the political will to effectively challenge the hold of corruption in Nigeria seem not to be there. So do you think that anti-corruption agencies can function effectively in a situation as we presently have in Nigeria? Hello, Mr. Nnadi, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, I was left. I didn't remember. I paused myself because of the noise background here.
Okay.
Well, to build up on that, because there's a lot to discuss about that. We have been kind of calibrated within the concept that we all require this hero that becomes the president or even the local government chairman. And that is why we have a lot of all this circumventing of the system. People find a way around the system rather than following that system. And that even dives into the deep argument, why this anti-corruption, whatever agency that you want to mention, why it's not working, basically in Nigeria. Not that we don't see them every day in the news, running people to court and all of that. But you look at the convictions and all of that, and then you ask yourself, why is it happening in one environment? Why it's not happening in another environment? But even if you want to ask even further, you ask yourself, why is it that the man who is a judge in Nigeria, who does not follow, who circumvents these rules, when it comes to another environment, he follows those rules? Then that is it constitutes into this moral agency that we're discussing about. It builds up that insensitize that people gain when that feeds on this corruption. And what are these insensitives like? What are those tipex, if I use the word? I bring it closer to you, Mr. T, so you understand it properly. If I was going to be driving in Enugu tomorrow, and I know the commissioner of police, and I run against the traffic light, if the traffic warden, or the traffic, whatever, camera, or whatever, will have to, challenge me with that, I'm going to call the commissioner of police, and that will not go anywhere. That is where it ends. If we start looking at these things from this angle, then we will find out why. This is why the traffic police officer will not be able to exercise the duty. That is the same reason why the IC, if we want to call it the Angel Corruption Agency in Nigeria, will still not work, because we circumvent our system, because we think we can eat our cakes and have it. We are looking for that hero, like the P2B movement. We want the P2B movement to come, but we're not ready to be part of that P2B. We don't want to be the P2B in our little environments. That is the problem. Regardless of how much anti-corruption agency that you configure, in a society that are not willing, that does not have that willpower. There are examples that actually worked. In Singapore, we know about how they had a stricter rules that corruption is literally like a death sentence. It worked because of the environment, because of the cultural, interface that is surrounding that certain environment. But in our own environment, we have a more complicated situation where you have ethnicity as being part of the trigger. You have the religion as part of the trigger. And these are things that has got emotional, moral emotions on people. Like people are not just, they don't just depend on this. Their soul is depending on this kind of things. They will rather even, die than not sustaining this practice. So that makes it a bit more complex, like the one that happened in Singapore. The Singaporeans, they have a common ground to start arguing or start debating. But with us, it's quite deviated. So coming back to your question, Mr. T, the point that for corruption, for any anti-agency to actually work in a society, in any system, the agent itself, and I don't know if you're getting my point. Yeah. The agent, which is my agent, your agent, everybody's agent, human agent, we have to interact within this agency, which is part of this conversation, what we're discussing, how this your moral capital, your moral agency interact with the agency. Without this relationship, if you like, make laws from heaven, as long as that relationship is not there, that law is just a piece of paper. People are still going to come, circumvent it, run around it, and then I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at Mr. T. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you know, for anti-corruption reform and agencies to work, we need that moral capital to be invested in the institution. And when you do, you know, the institution is bound to be more robust. Mary, in a situation where these things are not working, what do you think society, maybe represented by civil society organizations, what do you think the general society could do, maybe to hold them accountable?
Well, anyway, the general society can always embark on collective actions, and then without enforcing or re-emphasizing ethnicity, religion, and other things that are fighting against the progress of a certain society. Remember that most of the countries in the world have suffered in one way from lack of moral capital and also lack of institutional integrity. So if we are looking out to build something, like I always say that every society that is not properly developed as it is still evolving. So in that evolution stage, we need to collectively be working together with all the civil societies, with all the activists who are honest and not people who are deceptive and who don't even know what they are out there to speak for. So if we can collectively work with them and be honest to ourselves and work on the pressing concerns of moral capital, which also it's a key to providing a moral authority and political will, because you need political will to act. If you don't have that political will, you can never act. So because we want to commit ourselves to ethical reputation and ethical behaviors, which is not something you just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm the champion of ethical things. No, we need this collaboration with them, and we don't need to be downplaying what they're doing from wherever we may be. We need to be adding voice and then helping them to feel that their own contributions are not being undermined. This is something that is also going to help our society to prosper, because at this particular moment, we are looking at it from the perspective of what moral capital contributes, but also what institutional integrity contributes, because they are all low in one particular context than in another one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. Mr. Nadi, we've already extracted this idea that where the moral capital is lacking, the enforcement and the agency of anti-corruption could obviously be handicapped. Are there other factors you think are there to enable an effective anti-corruption reforms and delivery of anti-corruption dividends to the society?
Well, if I get your question properly, when you're,
I'm asking if there are other factors that can enable effective anti-corruption reforms, anti-corruption activities in a society.
Yeah. I think the one we're just mentioning, I think the one we mentioned here is actually the center where all of these things, all of the other smaller layers or elements, where they springs out from. There are lots and lots of conversation that we can have over corruption. Corruption doesn't just it's not. A lot of us will say, oh, when like I've always mentioned on our podcast, people, whatever they want to mention, whenever the word corruption is mentioned, the first instance will always be the politicians. But the loop, how these things connect with one another. I'll give you an instance. I'll give you a typical one. Another one. I like giving instances, so it helps to to digest the whole conversation. I was watching over the news. I watched people protesting about about the electoral reform. It's a very good thing that people are there protesting, but there are deeper issues that are unresolved. I said to a friend, and that was maybe a bit sarcastic. But I think, can you reduce your voice? That's for me being a bit sarcastic. I said to a friend that Nigeria is not ready, that Nigeria cannot have this electoral transmission. And a bit confused. People were misunderstanding. He misunderstood me. I'm not saying that electoral transmission is not the best thing for Nigeria because of the system, because obviously we know that the only best way to head on with corruption is when we move from human errors to digital products and all of that. So, but the truth about it is that there are deeper things before you even engage yourself with this, because even the operators of this digital this thing has to be playing by the same rules, because these rules, regardless of how you want to intertwine it, it has a way of finding his way to the human agency. He finds his way to somebody. He has to be there to do something. And the point with that electoral reform, and that is the bigger question the guy couldn't answer me. I asked him, that law was passed by the legislatures, which are representative from every constituency in Nigeria. Then the question is this: who are those people representing? Those who voted against that act by the lower chamber, they are representative of our people. Some of them represent us. They are the ones that we call the digital senators. Them are the ones we call the best senators in the world. You see the paradox. The paradox in all of these things is that we want to eat our cake and we want to have it. The more things change, the more it remains the same. If it's the magician, he said the more you look, the less you see. Because we are on one hand praising the man that voted against a law that will center us to become the real propellers of our own destiny. And then in the other hand, we are telling him, you are the best senator in the world. And these have moved from one angle to the other. And I can give you millions and thousands of examples of this. It's not just one, it's not just two. Not an isolated situation where you can say, oh, this is one off. But this corruption is how this agency, our human interpretations, the connection between reality to our own reality. You can't have a system where you call your brothers and sisters, where we refer in our side, we call it I am connected, I have connection. You can't have connection and expect to have a system that works. It can't work. So these two things is in contrast. They cannot work hand in hand. You cannot be connected and still expect the system to be ethical. So there are a lot of things that links to this loop, this moral loop, or whatever you ethical or whatever loop you want to mention, or institutional, whatever. There are lots and habits, characters, the tendencies, and all of that accumulates to become this whole institution that rewards a man who commits crime over the one that is being decent. So I'll leave it if that answers your question, Mr. T.
Yeah, thank you very much. Onyemere, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think we are still within salvage? Do you think we have not gone beyond salvage? Do you think better days we could still, reclaim our society? Do you think that we can still have a space where, think the rule of laws, societal integrity, and high moral capital could still have a larger place in our ecosystem?
Yeah, Thank you, brother. And then thank you, viewers. As I always said, most of these things our brother mentioned is just part of it's just something I summarize as loyalty. So, knowing who are loyal to, when you elect somebody to represent you, the person has to be loyal to you, not loyal to the executive. The person has to be loyal to you, not loyal to the governor. But what plays out in our own context in a very interesting way, and it's still affecting all these things. And but we can be salvaged. We can everything can get we can still get it right because everybody doesn't lack that moral capital. You know, even some of these politicians they still have high moral capital. Some of them, if you begin to look at them, well, we're talking about loyalty. Imagine now a former governor telling you that a president does not have the right or cannot give order to arrest him is because he knows he has information about that president. He knows something that can weaken that. He knows a lot about that president. And then he's saying a lot that is happening behind the scene. So now, when you want to get a job, and then you're going to get a good job through a politician, that's not their job. I also have mentioned a lot that we normally join or marry administration and political leadership. It's not doing us anything good because administration is different and political leadership is different, and political leadership can never come against administration because administration is something sustainable, something there and something that's going to last for a very long time. But if there's no merit, if there's no merit-based way of employing qualified individuals, then that loyalty, that is why you see them singing on your mandate, because they are loyal to the person. Whatever they get is from that person. They don't even think about people who vote. From now till 2027, for example, in Nigeria or in other countries that are doing elections to elect their political officers, even if you want a politician to come to your house to eat with you, this is the only time you can get them. This is the only time you can get anything you want from them because they need you. And as far as they need you, they will come closer and closer to you. So we need to pitch our loyalty to our country, to the system, to the people who elect you, not to the people who you are supposed to be exercising oversight against. So when this loyalty is not properly exercised, then there's a problem. If we go to anti-enforcement law agency,
can you mute yourself?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
If we talk about those laws, you're telling us that it's becoming difficult to enforce. It's because the person who is the head of the law enforcement agency against corruption might be somebody employed by a former governor, and then do you expect that person to also work against that governor? The person will be giving information to that governor. But if the loyalty is based on merit-based employment, that is how we can salvage ourselves. Somebody is employed because they are qualified, despite wherever they come from, then it becomes a situation whereby I don't owe loyalty to a politician, I owe loyalty to my country, I owe loyalty to the system. That is what is called institutional integrity. I'm not working to enforce laws that will favor the governor. I'm working to enforce laws that will favor the society and the people, and then the people will support you. But then if you now look at it, every politician has got their loyalty base. So if they extract or might take away their loyalty base from the country, you see that what is remaining is just a few individuals making noise on the street. But their noise is always heard when the noise thickens. So we need to increase merit-based employment. And we need to locate where our loyalty is pitched. Whether we are loyal to our country, whether we are loyal to our institution, whether we are loyal to our people, and whether we are loyal to politicians. So whenever you are able to find out where your loyalty lies, that is when we can begin to forge ahead, because it's a constant evolution. It's a constant evolution. Today, those people you see today clamoring on your mandate might tomorrow start saying something else because another form of slogan will meet them. Today we have a different slogan in Nigeria where you have city boys versus the village boys. It's still all about loyalty. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Onyeme. That was it. So, Mr. Nadi, I get back to the topic. moral capital and institutional integrity. Which one matters more for anti-corruption reform? Mr. Nadi, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, sorry, thank you. Thank you. Moral capital and institutional integrity. Obviously, the institutional integrity, that is what matters the most. If you're talking about of the fight against corruption, because obviously the individuals, but I wouldn't also totally isolate the moral aspect of it to the entire loop. It has to have a way of feeding to one another. Like I mentioned before, how your moral capital, what you have in your bank, in your moral bank, how they all congregate to build up that institution. Once that institution is already built, then you are now subjected to that institution. So whatever your moral is telling you about tomorrow is no longer very important. So but to get a bit, to divert a bit, to deviate a bit from that, we can take our examples on how this have actually developed in other society. When I remember back in the 80s, when Hong Kong had similar situation like in Nigeria. There was a time in Hong Kong where the famous fireman's quote, they said, "No money, no water." Where the fireman, the firemen, when even at the point of death, when your house is engulfed with fire, they will be outside in the window and be telling you have to send the money first before we start shooting the water. So you can see how the deeper the society have rotten into what they have actually moved into today, today of Singapore. I mean, of the Hong Kong, and then we can the lesson on how look at the Singaporeans as well, what they did. They actually have to understand this institution properly, because if we don't, a lot of us always mistake where the effort needs to be done the most. A lot of us are actually, we talk about electoral reform, which is very fantastic. I think for us to even have good elections, one of the key components of it, which is very good. But the one that is even more keen, that we need to put more project into is the judiciary, because the judiciary on its own is the anchor. I mean, what's the right word to use? Is the redeemer, the savior of the masses. That is where it ends. The judiciary is the hope, the last hope, and for even the Singaporeans, for them to even set up this arrangement, they have to understudy this concept. There is no way a judge a Nigerian judge will be earning 250,000 and you expect him to rule against a man that earns 500 million. It's not possible. You can't put a round hole. It's like you're putting a round pole in a square. Yeah, round peg in a What the Singaporeans did, they converted all their judges to elites. You cannot be richer than a judge. So regardless of how rich you are in Singapore, you cannot. There is no way you can. Go and read the story. So the judges become sufficient enough and becomes the most respected people in the society, that their integrity, and that is the construct to this. We have to start building a kind of an institution where obeying the rules becomes more favorable. It has to be favorable. People have to see incentives on doing the right things. Both the wages you're paying them, both the kind of respect you're giving to them in the society, and so forth and so forth on. So these are the ways that society have tried to move from this deepened, rotten situation to move from there to the other. So I don't want to go too much, but for any society to move from this corrupted system, the cost of corruption needs to be higher than the cost of not being corrupt. People has to see, like, if I have to call my brother that is the local government chairman, I will even get it worse. Like, you're bribing a police officer in the UK. You get, if you bribe a police officer, if you have committed one crime, you have committed 10. So the cost of being corrupt, if it's higher, if it's not higher, if it's lesser, there's no way we're not even having a conversation. Thank you, Mr. T.
Thank you very much. Onyemere, can you give us can you round off in 2 minutes?
Well, anyway, thank you once again. As I said, I think we need both moral capital and institutional integrity to be able to enact a meaningful anti-corruption reform. We also have to understand that moral capital provides the moral authority and political will to help us to enact not only a meaningful, but also a sustainable and enforceable reforms and laws. So whatever laws and reforms you enact and is not capable of being enforced in a fair and equitable way, that law reform becomes null and void. So, because institutional integrity needs to function in a way that is accountable and transparent and also founded on integrity, we need to refer back to our moral capital. And we also have to consider that since the society is trading their loyalty to the individuals, rather than trading their loyalty to the state, to the people, to the institutions, and to the state and to the country, it becomes difficult for us to only base our reforms on institutional integrity, because no amount of law can work or can be respected if there's no commitment to ethical behaviors. And when there's a commitment to ethical behaviors, it becomes imperative for individuals to understand that no longer should I trade my loyalty to anybody, and then I will trade my loyalty to the country. Whether somebody helps me to get a job or not, my loyalty is to the people that elect me, is to the people that I'm representing, and is to the people that I have their mandate, not the people that connected me to get this job. And if we want to enforce rules equitably, so that what works for a common man, what works against a common man, will also work against the other people that are occupying the political state, we need to find the real balance between moral capital and then institutional integrity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Onyemere. Mr. Nade, can you round up in 1 minute?
Well, thank you. Thank you, T. The topic, core component of the topic today is more how this roundabout, this ecosystem between your moral, how the citizen, how the moral loop of a society works, how citizens shapes the institutions, and how that institution starts with shaping the same citizens. And that is the idea behind all of this. How your little contribution to the society, how they shapes how your institution functions, how the integrity of your institution, and so forth and so on. But to end this, there are key important things that it should be a takeaway for anybody who cares to listen, or who even cares to even make research. You can, because sometimes we give it like a script. You can go and find out yourself. In a society like Nigeria, we don't need a hero. We don't need who is going to be the star of the moment. We don't need Peter Obi. If I use that word, if anybody will want to listen to me, we don't need him. We don't need anybody. We need institution. We need a collectiveness, isolation of people clustering together towards a certain goal. That this is the kind of society we need. Whether it's Peter Obi that is there, whether it's Tinubu that is there, whether it's whoever that is there, we are upholding this system. Because even if we have the best presidents in the world today, look at Anambra, where P2B, where he was former governor. You wouldn't speak the best of Anambra today. Or you would, Would you? But the truth about it is that P2B, if we have a hero, that hero will come and he will leave. But if we build an institution, regardless of whoever that comes into that institution, he will have to align with the system. Otherwise, the system will not. So not a single individual, not a single hero will save us from this corruption. We have to make it a habit around ourselves that if you are not qualified for a job, don't go for fasting and prayer for it. If you know you're not qualified, if you know you don't have everything that is required, don't take the Psalms and think it's going to convert your religious belief into a system. So we have to interpret these things to our everyday life. That when you break the rules, there is consequences, and that consequences have to be followed. That is the only way system works. That is the only way institution works. Don't start calling your brother, because the loop that you're calling, that's when that same link that you're using to call your brother is the same loop that your brother takes that legitimacy. He doesn't take that legitimacy from the institution. He takes that legitimacy from you calling when you have that issues with the police officers. So that is how corruption loops around itself. So we have to distinguish between these things. I'll leave it there, Mr. T. It's a good topic, and I think the only bad thing that we don't have enough time to digress a bit more, because there's a lot.
There's not always a good enough time, because there are other things people could be doing at any moment in time. But then I just want to thank you guys for having dropped everything here on the floor. We just come in here and we do what we decide to do, and we just put everything on the floor. We don't leave anything in the tank. Thank you very much. And for our takeaway for our audience, it is important for there to be a balance between moral capital and institutional integrity for any society to find itself in a progressive trajectory. One shouldn't be much more than the other in terms of percentile. There should be just about a balance where they rub off on each other reinforcing the other, and then you have a balance in the society. And it is also important for us to make corruption more costly. When it becomes more costly to be corrupt, then you find that people will not even dare to delve into corrupt activities. This is one of some of the things we are talking about here, and people should be more loyal to institutions than to persons. People come and they go, but institutions remain. The chief judge of Nigeria could be there today, and tomorrow he or she goes. But if your loyalty is to the institution, is to Nigeria, then you are not shaken by whether whoever is there. You already know that your loyalty is to Nigeria, to the law that govern the state. And like our takeaway again is that you don't actually need a hero. When all these things are in place, you don't need a hero. If the system is working well, you don't need anybody to put in words for you. If you've done anything, then you go in for it. If you've done anything well, you accept the reward. If you've done anything bad, the law of karma will catch up with you. Karmic consequences meet up with you, whether good or bad. So that is why we are here. And then I just hope that those of us who are listening will just understand the idea that for Nigeria to be a place where everybody would want to be, we need a balance between the moral and the institutional integrity. When you have that balance, you have a balanced society. And when you in a situation where people are not loyal to institutions, are more loyal to institutions than to persons, you also have that balance. Thank you, gentlemen, for having given us this roadmap. And I believe that the people who are watching, even if you're not in the political system today, you could be there tomorrow. You begin to internalize some of these things to probably help you walk through the political space when you get in there. So I just want to thank you guys for having given us this insight and giving us this roadmap. I want to thank the guys who have stayed with us. We have Frank Ume, who is always there to support us. Zerubbabel Azozodak. This guy seems to be, I think this guy is from Israel. He must be an Israeli. Zerubbabel Zadok. This name comes from Israel. Zerubbabel, thank you all the same for having always shown up. Quali Sentence, we appreciate your presence here today. And for all those that are behind the scene, want to thank you for having tried to, help us make this session an entertaining and engaging one. Thank you very much, guys. Until we meet again, I just want to say hats to all of you who have been on it. Gentlemen, and I think we'll have to call it a day until next week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Week. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, bye.
Like, subscribe.